everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we are going to learn how to crochet. If you've been wanting to learn how to crochet or you just want to brush up on your skills, you have come to the right place. So this is designed to be a short little video series that you can learn how to crochet over 2 videos. So this is part 1. So today we're going to talk about materials to get you started, just some really simple basic materials. We're going to talk about how to hold your hook. There's different ways to do it, different styles. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to learn how to do a slip knot, a very easy way that I like to do it. We're going to learn how to make a crochet chain. And we're going to learn the very basic single crochet stitch. Then we're going to kind of put all of our skills together and make just a little crochet swatch and then weave in the ends. So let's get started. We're going to jump in and learn how to do some crochet basics and how to crochet. Before we get started, be sure and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel. It supports the channel. I have tons of crochet content on this channel. We have so much fun in our Fiberflux community. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, be sure and hit that button to get all the latest updates. Okay, so to get started with crochet, it just takes some very simple materials. As you make more things and learn new skills, you may want to try new yarns and hook sizes and things like that. But to start, we're going to use a very simple yarn and hook. Now, when you look at a yarn label, you see the yardage. This one happens to have 285 yards. And if you spin it around, you can see a little picture with a yarn ball and a number. This is the yarn weight. So you have, you may have a different number than me, but this is a medium 4 that I'm using. This is a great weight to start with. And you'll want to choose something that's a smooth strand. You can find yarns that have kind of like faux fur, some have sequins, some are very textured, some are very big and bulky, some are fine. I would suggest going right down the middle with a medium 4 weight to start if you're brand new. And then you'll want to look for your yarn that you'll be using, the recommended hook size. So you'll also want to look for the little picture of the hook on your yarn label here. And this yarn recommends a 5mm H crochet hook. So that is what I have here. On my hook, I see number 5mm H crochet hook, okay? So we're going to use the recommended hook size for this yarn, and that'll give us some good results. Having a pair of scissors handy is also a good idea. Now, we're going to grab our yarn, and we're going to talk a little bit about holding our hook next. Once you have your yarn and your hook, we're going to talk about holding your hook. Now, there's 2 different ways to do it, and I've also seen other variations as well. Now, some people feel more comfortable holding their hook like I'm holding it here. This is called the knife grip. So it looks like you're holding like a knife to cut into something, okay? So I'm holding the hook in my hand like this, and my thumb, there's a little thumb rest here. It's kind of sitting on that thumb, okay? So I hold my hook like this. Some people like to hold their hook the other way. So if you put your hand under the hook and rest your thumb on the thumb grip this way, they like to hold their hook this way, almost like a pencil. So this is also called the pencil grip, but I've also seen it called the spoon grip or the fork grip as well, because it almost looks like you're holding a spoon or a fork, or you're getting to write with a pencil, okay? So different ways to hold it. I would practice both if you have never done this before and see what feels most comfortable to you. You might want to try both and just take both grips for a spin, see which one feels the best, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is talk about how to hold our yarn. Now in crochet, tension is really important. It gives you the most consistent looking stitches, and it gives you a nice even feed of yarn into your project, okay? There are also many ways to hold the hook. There are also many ways to hold your yarn. Okay, we're going to learn how to do chains and stitches soon, but what I like to do is wind it around my pinky, lift it up with my index finger, and whether I'm making a chain or a stitch, I kind of hold it the same way, okay? So see how I'm making stitches here? That gives me that even tension that I need to give me a nice steady flow of yarn at the right tension, okay? So let's pull this apart because we're going to move on to putting a slip knot on your hook. That's where most projects begin. Now, about holding the yarn, I would just practice different ways, and there are so many different ways to hold yarn. So I would just practice what feels best to you, okay? Let's move on to the slip knot next. To make a slip knot, there's also a variety of ways to do it. This is the way I like to do it. It's the way I was taught, and it's super duper easy, okay? So what I do is I leave a little bit of tail, yarn tail pointing towards me. That you'll weave in later. And then what I do is I wrap the yarn around my fingers, my index finger and my middle finger to make a loop. And then I kind of pinch it with my thumb and back my fingers out of the loop. So I'm just pinching a loop like this. You can see there's a loop. Now I take the yarn behind the loop. So it looks like a circle with a line through it. See that? Take your hook, reach into that circle, bring up that line that's through it, and then I grab the bottom here like this and I pull it. See how it's tightening down on my hook? Like that. Now I have a loop here, and then I take both of these ends and I just sort of like split them open, and that tightens it onto my hook, okay? Again, there's lots of different ways to put a slip knot on your hook. This is the way I like to do it, okay? Now we're going to kind of get this tail out of the way, because the next thing we're going to learn how to do is make a chain. So I'm going to come in even a little bit closer on this one. So to make a chain, what we're going to do is I'm going to go really slow, and we're going to do a bunch of them together, okay? So to make a chain, what we'll do, and if you notice, I'm holding my yarn the way we talked about before. I have my tension is good. If you are learning, figure out kind of how you like to hold it. Here's the front view, here's the back view, okay? But you can hold it different ways. I would practice different ways and see how you like to do it. Some people just like to hold it. Some people wind it all around and do all different things. I like to hook my pinky, lift it up with my index finger, and that's all. I also, when I'm doing a chain, I like to hold the tail, at least in the beginning, because it kind of holds things down where I need them to be. Okay, so you can kind of see how I'm holding it. Okay, so to make a chain, we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook, and we're going to pull it through that loop that's on our hook, just like that. Okay, let's do a couple more together. Wrap the yarn around the hook and pull it through that loop. When you're learning, go nice and slow and be gentle, because it's very easy for it to come apart if you move too abruptly, okay? Now you can see we have 2 chains on our hook now. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through that loop. Wrap the yarn around the loop, bring it through the loop. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop, okay? So we've made 5 chains, okay? Let's make a couple more. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop. Wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop. Yarn around hook, bring it through the loop, and so forth, okay? So what I would recommend for each of these skills that we're going to learn is to practice making chains. Just spend time making chains. No need to move on quickly to the next thing. Just make chains, make chains. That's what I did when I learned. I just made a bunch of chains, okay? So now let's look at our chains. The front of our chains looks like some stacked up V's. If we flip our chain over, it looks like links, okay? So sometimes in a pattern, you may see it referred to as the front of the chain and the back of the chain, okay? Let's move on to make a single crochet. This will be the last part of our tutorial, and then I encourage you to check out part 2 of our Learn to Crochet series, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to make a little single crochet swatch. We're going to learn how to make a single crochet, work into chains, and how to move on from row to row. So a lot of times I've seen people ask, okay, I know how to make the single crochet, but how do I go to another row? Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that too. So depending on the pattern that you're working with, it will tell you to work in a certain chain from the hook. we're going to work into the second chain from the hook for our single crochet that we're going to do. You may see a different number in your pattern, and that's okay too. So when we're working into a chain, this loop here does not count when you're counting your chains. So we're going to work in the second chain from the hook. So we're going to go 1 and 2. So we're going to work into that chain there, okay? So to make a single crochet, we're going to insert our hook into that chain. We're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and we're going to pull it back through. And we're going to bring up that loop. Now we're going to wrap the yarn around the hook again and bring it through both loops. And that is a single crochet. Super easy, very simple stitch. Okay? Next, we're going to do this in every chain across. So we'll do a couple slow ones together and then kind of move across. Insert the hook into the next chain, wrap the yarn around the hook, bring up a loop, wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through both loops. Okay? That was our second single crochet. Let's do it again. Insert the hook into the next chain, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. Okay? Again, just like the chain, you'll want to do lots and lots of single crochets to practice. Okay? Let's do it again. Insert the hook into the next chain, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. Okay? Feel free at any time in this video to back up, rewatch it, and YouTube also has a slow motion feature that you can watch it too that way. All right, let's do the rest of this row of chains here. Insert the hook into that next chain, wrap yarn around hook, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, okay? Now we've done a couple very, very slow. Let's pick up speed so you can see how it looks a little bit quicker. Insert the hook into the chain, bring up a loop, yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, okay? I'm going to work the rest of my single crochets at a slower pace so you can see how to finish up, okay? And then here's our last chain. We're just going to work a single crochet into that last chain as well, okay? So here is our first row of single crochet stitches. Also feel free to pause the video at any time if you want to catch up or do some on your own, okay? Now I'm going to get a little bit more yarn out of my yarn ball and we're going to learn how to move from row to row with single crochet. So what we want to do is chain 1 and we're going to turn our work, okay? Then we're going to work into the stitches. So the stitches look like kind of like open loops. A little row of open loops, if you can see them. See how there's a little light shining through them? Those are our stitches, okay? So what we want to do is work single crochets into them, okay? Very similar to the chains, I just wanted to show you how to work it into the stitches as well. So this very first stitch here, insert the hook into that stitch, bring up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. Do the same thing. Insert the hook into the next stitch, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. Insert the hook into the next stitch, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, and so forth, okay? So let's do a few more. Insert the hook into that next stitch, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops. Okay? Insert the hook into the next stitch, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, and so forth with your single crochets. Again, you can back up the video at any time to see that in slow motion. Now when you get to the end sometimes looks a little bit different, but you can kind of see that loop there at the end. So work your last single crochet of the row, okay? Now we have made a teeny tiny little swatch. Let's learn how to finish our swatch. What we're going to do is cut the yarn and we're going to fasten off. You may see that phrase in a pattern. Wrap the yarn around the hook, pull it through that loop all the way, and then tighten, okay? Now, if you want to, you can weave in the ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my end and I'm going to thread my tapestry needle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and go into the loops of these stitches. So just go into the loops, just like that. I like to go at least an inch or so, okay, with my needle, and then pull it through, just like that, till the knot kind of falls down in there. And then I like to go back into the other direction with my tail, and that helps me to lock it into place. It's not totally necessary, but I like to do it as a personal preference. It does keep the ends from popping out. And then once you've done that, you can take your scissors and give it a little snip. So we have made a whole crochet swatch together. We have learned how to select our yarn and our hook. We have learned how to hold our yarn in our hook. We have learned how to do a slip knot. We have learned how to do a chain. We have learned how to do a single crochet. And we also moved from doing single crochets into a chain. We learned how to transition to a new row, turn our work, and work single crochets into chains. So I hope this helped you get a great start into jumping into the world of crochet. Please join me for part 2, where we're going to build on our skills and we're going to learn how to do next a half double crochet, a double crochet, and a treble crochet, okay? We'll review a little bit and then we'll move on to some other stitches. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how to crochet. We go nice and slow, and I hope you learned a thing or two. Also, I wanted to mention again, there is a slow motion feature, so you can watch any of the parts that we just talked about in slow motion. And you can also go back and rewatch the video at any time, or parts of the video. Just drag that little bar over and you can see any of the parts nice and slow and watch them over and over again as much as you need to. Crochet takes time and practice, and it's just about doing it over and over and over again to learn the very basics of crochet. So there is a second part of this video. I will see you in the next video, where we're going to cover some more things to learn how to crochet. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.